Welcome back to Spitballin Cards. In today's video, we're going to be talking about the high-end Wyatt Langford saga and the drama that's happened around that card. We're also going to be discussing some eBay auctions and whether we think they're good or bad pricing. And if we have time, we're also going to be discussing some would you rathers. My name is Scott. We also have Phil, Jeff, and Chris on this episode. Thanks for joining us, everybody. And let's tee up this first conversation. Let's talk about Wyatt Langford. The Wyatt Langford Superfractor Bowman Chromatograph, the best Wyatt Langford card that will ever be produced, unless it's challenged by the Ricky Patch logo, who knows, someday, was actually pulled, and it was a redemption. In this redemption, someone reached out to the person who pulled it. It was, I believe, just someone who's not like a major collector, like they just like to open wax, and they agreed to a price on that card. And the price was pretty, it was a lot of money for sure, but it wasn't what you'd expect that card to go for. It was $25,000. And later, the card was in the Topps redemption process for about a month, I believe. And by the time the card came back, the same guy who had not even a handshake agreement, just a message agreement on Instagram, got other offers and decided to sell the card to somebody else for $50,000. So double the price. And there's a big discussion in the hobby about whether this person's in the wrong because he decided to walk away from an agreement that was done on Instagram. Is he a bad person? All of that stuff. Or would you do the same thing? So I want to discuss this with you all and hear your thoughts. Do you think the seller was in the wrong? Do you think this should never happen? Is it no big deal because there was no handshake? There's no buyer protection. What are your thoughts on this discussion? Jeff, what's your thoughts on this whole thing?
All right, just a quick correction. I believe it was agreed 27,000. I think they started at 25. They bumped it up a little bit, and that was the price agreement. It's difficult making any sort of deals online for sure. And with Instagram or Facebook, there's just until money changes hands, nothing is really set in stone, for better or worse. And so for this particular deal, and I've made a few deals like this where you have to either wait for the card to come in, or the person who's selling it has to wait to get their hands on it from a vault, etc. And you just have to make sure that the terms are all agreed to, whether there needs to be a down payment. PayPal Goods and Services is really good for this because if it doesn't work out, you can get that money back. So I wish that the buyer had proactively taken a step like that to make certain that this deal would go through, or to protect himself a little more, I should say, not make certain. But and then on the other side, the one problem I have with the seller deciding to take the higher offer was that I don't think he approached the original guy and said, listen, I've got an offer that's about twice as much. It's life-changing money for me, and I'm going to take it. Since you were the first one I talked to about it, do you want to meet that price? Are you willing to come up? I wish that discussion had taken place, but from what I understand, it did not. So that kind of took the buyer by surprise, which is a little unfortunate. But so I can see both sides of the issue. Again, it's something you've got to be really careful with online. The one thing we do have is our reputation. So I feel like once you harm your reputation or it comes into question, then it's going to make it harder to make future deals. So that's an unfortunate byproduct of a situation like this.
It's tough. I mean, I feel bad for the guy who had the original agreement. I mean, $27,000 is a ton of money. And obviously $50,000, I did the math, it's more. So, I mean, I understand from the seller's standpoint, like that's life-changing money. Like that's a semester at college. That's a lot of money. It's a new car. And yeah, I think like what Jeff was saying, without a deposit down, I feel like if the buyer had sent a couple grand PayPal Goods and Services just to sort of lock in the price, then that would make it worse, like way worse. So I recently, last year, I agreed with someone to buy a card. And as Jeff was mentioning, people have cards in vaults and sometimes they have to come back. And I was uncomfortable sending any money to the seller before he physically had the card in hand, so I understand why that didn't happen. But we waited, and that took about 3 weeks for the card to come in from the vault. And had that seller gotten another offer, I mean, I would have been bummed, but I would have understood. Like, we're not in person. We're not shaking hands. It's not taking place over the course of 2 minutes. But it stinks. I mean, I would say for people like the four of us, we'd have a hard time doing that, given that we have some kind of presence here. It would probably look bad on us. But I certainly understand $23,000 is a lot of money. But like Jeff said, I think he should have given the original guy a chance to offer, or to match the offer, I should say. But I can see both sides. It's kind of a shitty situation.
One thing I'll say is I do a majority, almost all of my buying and selling, mainly selling, because sometimes you'll like find specific cards on eBay or on Alt or PWCC or whatever auction you want to use. A lot of my selling is on Instagram, and I've had so many times where people just don't respond. They back out, and that's like the consequence of doing these types of deals on Instagram. And that's a consequence of it. Doing through Facebook is you run a lot of risk, and that's why buying platforms like eBay exist. And so if you really want that protection, you got to make sure you have eBay, or at least know who you're dealing with, because it should not be unexpected. If you ever try to buy anything like through Facebook Marketplace, good freaking luck. They don't respond 90% of the time, and usually they're bots anyway. So it's tough. And I'm not saying this person is a bot or anything, but I'm just saying, like, it's not a shock that it fell through. I know in the messages between the two people, he was messaging like, wow, Wyatt's having a great spring, because he has been having a great spring. He's going to make the opening day roster. You can kind of like see the realization that he's doing great in that month wait. And that's when you should start to realize, yeah, there's a chance that this guy, I never hear from again, or they just say no. So my thoughts. Phil, what do you think?
Yeah, I think, when I first heard about the story, skimming through the conversation history and reading some of the comments that people were writing, I was thinking like, yeah, I mean, the seller's in the wrong and the buyer has a right to be pissed. And I think after diving deeper into all of this, I think I still agree with that. But I think there is some nuance based on some additional thinking I've done, because I've had a chance to look into this in a little bit more detail. And the four of us here, we know nothing about the seller. He does have quite an established Instagram following, so I'm sure there's a lot of people that are watching that do know a lot about the seller, and he's probably a great guy, in real life, and I'm sure he is. So nothing personal against him, but when he had made a comment that there were a bunch of people that were sending this buyer offers at like 5 or 10K, and we thought that we had sent them what was a reasonable offer of 25K, and then that got bumped up to 27, which was the agreed upon transaction price back in early February. Well, based on my multiplier charts for Bowman Chrome, you're looking at, for a Superfractor auto, somebody of Wyatt Langford's caliber, probably 120 to 160x. So that in itself, it puts the card well above, even with Wyatt's prices that had bottomed at around 260 for his raw base autograph. In February, I think they were already starting to tick up again, but you look at like 260 is probably the bottom. So do the math, 260 times the low end of that range, 120. You're well above 25K. You're probably closer to what, like 40K? On top of that, so you might be thinking like, yeah, but who's spending that much over Superfractor these days? Well, Junior Caminero and Andrew Harrison, within the last 6 months, had Superfractor sell. With Junior Caminero, I think it was late December, and his market was not hot at the time. And his Bowman Chrome autograph Superfractor did 34,000. So if you look at Junior Caminero's base auto prices from late December versus Wyatt Langford's base auto prices from early February, Wyatt was outselling him by about 75% at the time. So I know they agreed on that 25K price, but if you're allowing multiple weeks to go by between the agreed upon price in principle and the actual changing of hands with the money itself, you're going to have to understand that the more time that goes on, the more chance this has to go badly for you. So I'm thinking like, well, why did they even try to redeem it? Right? Like, why don't you just buy the redemption versus the card itself? And I can understand as a buyer, maybe why he didn't do that, because it's easier to like mess with a redemption, scratch it, pull some funny business. I mean, these sellers really didn't have much of a reputation. So I get like the managing your risk by not going through with buying the redemption and waiting for the card to come in the mail. But I mean, you're taking on more risk of the transaction failing because of that. We talked about the amount of weeks going by, but also this is a volatile card. This guy's playing in spring training games. This affects the value, negative or positive. So if I'm the seller, whether I'm experienced selling cards or not, I'm thinking there's just as much of a chance that this guy's going to back out, versus me having seller's remorse. Like, what if Wyatt got hurt, right? Is he still going to come through and deliver this money, right?
That was my thoughts. Like, what if he tore his ACL?
Yeah. So you're the seller, and if this is true, the seller was an uncle or a man and his nephew. The nephew had just lost his father. So they thought this was like a sign from, the gods that, this was like meant to happen. And if you just lose your father, you probably need a little bit of money if you don't have like life insurance or, I don't know that situation. But if it's truly life-changing money, and if you don't have a hobby reputation, you have to seriously consider, as these guys said, the extra $25,000. Like Lamine James, when he posted that survey, I don't even know if he said 25,000 versus 50 or 27 versus 50. I think he just said double, like 100 versus 200. And half the people that responded said they would take 2x the money. And some of these people probably have established hobby reputations with Instagrams. If you're in the seller's shoes, as all this time is going on, irrespective of Wyatt Langford's hot start, you're probably, because he shopped around the card on social media for the first buyer to see it, he probably got flooded with offers above 25K. And this is where, like, I get like the principle of like, you agree to a deal, you stick with it. But I'm also not a big fan of information asymmetry in the hobby. One of the reasons why I don't like trade nights, like people getting taken advantage of that don't know what they have. This being an extreme case, what I would have tried to do is connect with the guy outside of Instagram. Give him a call, right? Like as soon as he's like communicating to you, like, oh, look at Wyatt Langford and look at the numbers he's putting up, like try to establish a deeper connection with him. I would have given a PayPal GNS deposit myself personally, and you can get that money back if the deal doesn't go through. Honestly, it probably fails anyways, because what's a $1,500, $2,500 deposit going to get you? That down payment, really, not deposit, when he gets an offer that's $23,000 higher. But with Wyatt, with his numbers improving, like to me, when his blues and golds and waves go up in price, the Superfractor guys is more expensive too. So when the card was originally worth closer to 40 or 50 and not 25, now you're dealing with a card that's worth 60 or 70.
I'm going to say, I don't think like the buyer did anything wrong, really. He can post about it and say like, I got screwed. That's fine. But like you said, Phil, it's one of those situations where you shouldn't be surprised. There's been, especially on Instagram, with someone who's not a big account, like it's tough. But I do want to say, like, the buyer didn't do anything necessarily wrong, but it's a tough situation. Any thoughts, Jeff or Chris, before we wrap this topic up?
No, I agree. I think the biggest point that Phil made was this is a volatile time. We're not talking about December when nobody's playing. You're not hearing any news about these guys. This is spring training. And yeah, he happened to be hitting amazing. So I think that played a role in this, obviously, but it also, in my opinion, should have made the buyer a little bit more aware, or maybe even raise his offer as they're discussing it. But yeah, I just, it's a tough situation all around. I hope whoever did get the card is happy with it, the eventual owner, and I hope the seller that their family situation is made better because of it.
Maybe the potential buyer will be really happy he didn't win the card in a year, right? So maybe that's the silver lining for him, is if Wyatt comes out and he's not as good as we hope he's going to be or expect him to be, that this card's not worth more than $27,000 in 12 months. And if that's the case, it worked out great. So
yeah,
tough thing.
Maybe we edit this out, but I don't think the buyer's in there to hold it for a long period of time. I mean, the price that he gave is like the arbitrage price. Like, if he really wasn't paying attention to the spring training, responding to him like, I'm not paying attention. It's like, really? Like, but I thought this was a big deal to you. Like, you've got to understand that Wyatt Langford, he's played in AAA already. These games might be kind of meaningful to see if he can make the roster
for the opening day roster. Yeah, like you're paying attention. If I had 27 grand in the line, I'd probably be paying attention to it. But that's just me. I have a very small amount of certain players that makes me want to care about them. I have a very small amount of Bitcoin that makes me watch Bitcoin. I can only imagine if I was having 50 grand on the line. So, but anyways, let us know in the comments down below. This is one of those tough things, and we can give our opinions. Obviously, we're not saying that it's great to back out of deals. We do not want people to back out of deals if they're agreed upon. But there's obviously nuances with value increases, and this is definitely an outlier. By far an outlier. This doesn't happen often. But what are your thoughts? Would you have done the same thing? Are you opposed to it? Are you in favor of it? Let us know. But the next topic, I actually just wanted to show you a few of the auctions that I've been watching on eBay. And I want to show you these cards, and we're going to go over if we think they were a good buy, bad buy, too cheap, too expensive, and go from there. If you bought these cards and we say it was a bad buy, just know we did not do as much research as you did, so don't feel bad. But let me share my screen real quick. This is the very first one And this is one that I thought was pretty sweet, and maybe it went for too little, maybe it went for too much. I want to hear your thoughts. It is a Bryce Harper Tier 1 on the rise autograph, 1/1 gold ink. Obviously not a 10 autograph because it's one of those thick paint pens, but they usually don't fade, and so it's a great looking card. It is a true 1/1, and it sold for $3,938. And you would expect potentially for this card to go more. And I want to hear your thoughts. Do you think this is a good price, overpriced, underpriced? Where are you at on this card? Chris, what do you think?
I'll be honest with you. I do not know a lot about Tier 1. So I would, despite the name, I would say this is probably like a second tier product. It is a really cool Bryce Harper 1/1 rookie auto. But I wouldn't really know how to price it. I'm not sure what I would have bid on this if I were in the market for a high-end Bryce Harper. It just feels safer to me to like go after a Topps Chrome Gold maybe instead of going after a Tier 1 1/1. I do like the pen though. Does look cool. It's a cool looking card. But in terms of value, like I have no idea. I don't know where to begin pricing something like this.
A Topps Chrome Gold probably goes for more than this, don't you think? If a PSA 10 or high grade.
There are no PSA 10s. There's like 7 PSA 9s. They're all off-centered, so there won't be any 10s. But I mean, I'd take that over this still in a PSA 9.
Yeah, okay. I feel like this would be a great card for a Harper super collector, a big Harper fan. Now, does it have an auto grade? Do they put the auto grade on the back if it's not 10?
Recent BGS autographs, if they don't have an auto grade, it means it's not a 10. So no auto grade, it's definitely not a 10 auto because of that.
So they just don't grade it anymore?
They don't grade it. They do what SGC does now.
All right.
Where they just don't grade it.
That's weird, but all right. I don't mind the auto. I think it looks great. That wouldn't bother me, but I don't know where the future potential value is there. Scott, I know you recently bought a 1/1. I think it was a Buster Posey.
Yeah.
So you probably know more about the 1/1 market around that time. I don't know. I'm not too familiar with the product. And like Chris said, I would veer towards a more mainstream product, even if it's not a 1/1.
So some thoughts on the Posey. This is the Posey. It's a sterling 1/1. The reason why this card to me has more significance than this one is Bryce Harper had a decent amount of rookies. He was in Finest, Topps Chrome, and a bunch more, right? He was in a bunch of stuff. And while Buster Posey, he actually was not in that many sets. He doesn't have a Chrome flagship 1/1 auto or base card, and he only has like 2 Chrome 1/1s. So this card to me has like a lot more importance for Buster Posey than this card probably does for Bryce Harper. But for transparency, I paid like $2,700 for this Posey. So whether that's a good deal or bad deal, we'll find out in 5 years or so. But I do think there's enough Buster Posey Superfractors where there's not, there's enough Buster Posey collectors and not enough Buster Posey 1/1s to go around, while Bryce Harper has quite a few. So with that price in mind, I don't know if it changes your opinion, but Phil, what do you think?
Yeah, it's funny. My wife's nephew reached out to me this past weekend. He's been getting back into cards, and he asked me my opinion of Tier 1. And I told him, what did I tell him? Low floor, medium ceiling. So
yes. I agree.
This 4,000 makes sense to me. I was going to say before Scott just brought up that little tidbit there that if there is some inefficiency for why this did go lower and some ability to, take advantage of an opportunity, it could be because people are critiquing the ultra modern era for being a junk slab era, the junk parallel era, and then some people have called it the junk 1/1 era. And forgetting that 2012, 13, 14, 15, 16, a lot of these cards, a lot of these players, they didn't have too many 1/1s. So if you're saying, Scott, that Harper did have more than other players like Posey, then that probably gives me all I need to know to say that I don't believe that this was too cheap.
Yeah, because if you compare him, I'm going to say Mookie, but I'm not saying you should buy Mookie. But if I just know his market, he has 5 1/1s. He has 3 sterling 1/1s, red, atomic, and red, atomic, and regular Superfractor. He has those 3. And then he has 2 from Topps Update. It's the regular flagship and then the debut flagship 1/1. That's it for base rookies. So like for a player like that does not exist anymore. I did a video on Wander Franco at the time. Obviously that age like milk, with Wander Franco being the subject of any video. And he has like 500. That's a bit dramatic. Maybe 50 base 1/1s, but he has like 500 total 1/1s between autographs and base and memorabilia. And all of these things, tops now, right? And it's very different. And so like for this card, maybe Bryce Harper has a total of 20 one-of-ones. Does that mean this card still should be 4,000? Or do we think that, collecting of his cards, if he's as good as we say he is, can support that one-of-one? So it's an interesting case study and thought process here. But if Harper continues to perform in Philly, if they win a World Series, I think there would be collectors. If you find the right guy, you can move this for more than $4,000 pretty easily, personally. But I wouldn't have paid this price. I didn't pay this price, but it's a cool card nonetheless. So any final thoughts?
I like how it looks.
Yeah, it's a great looking card. Great. Well, the next one is going to be Garrett Cole, Gold Refractor Bowman Chromatograph. This just sold yesterday for $1,800 in the light of his new injury. Would you touch this card for this price?
Well, we actually have been looking for one of these, or I should say had, I'm going to put it in past tense, been looking for like this exact card. There's another one up on eBay. And I found the guy on Instagram and I sent him like 6 messages and he just left me on read, which I thought was kind of interesting. I'm like, here, take some money. And he was just like, I'm not interested in this. Kind of weird. But anyway, given with the new injury situation, neither Jeff nor I made any attempt to buy this card. I think it's a really nice looking card. And had he been healthy, I would say that's a great price. But I'm still just a little concerned. I feel a little bit gun shy now on Garrett Cole.
Okay. Phil, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm wondering like what's the dip so far? Like what was the base Bowman Chrome Auto selling for a week ago? Because I'd make my decision probably based off that, which isn't fully giving you the answer. But injury so far, no structural damage. Like asterisk. What does that even mean? Is there a tear? Is there a partial tear? Is this really just inflammation? Seeing that Neil Alatrash guy seems like a pretty big deal, like the new James Andrews, right? Mm-hmm. This is the type of thing, and I think they're kind of doing something similar with different therapy, but for Kyle Bradish of the Orioles. You don't really want the Tommy John to be performed in April because that almost ensures you're going to miss 2 complete years, except for next year's okay, you'll be in the bullpen a little bit, maybe in the playoffs, you'll be in the bullpen maybe in September or something. But I think they're trying to buy their time to figure out if they can get them right. And that worries me. I mean, 2 full seasons with Garrett Cole opens up the door a little bit for Mr. Spencer Strider as one of the only investable young pitchers in his prime. Yeah. Like the only interesting pitcher from a hobby perspective that's under the age of 35 that isn't hurt.
I would have argued Yuri Perez 2 days ago. Now right. He's out, and it sounds like he's going to have Tommy John. It sounds like, right, based off of reports. I haven't heard anything since his diagnosis of he has going under MRI. So pitchers just kind of suck to buy, and I'm going to have a hard time buying any pitcher moving forward. Even Spencer Strider, these guys just, if you don't have a Tommy John, Garrett Cole never had a Tommy John. He's age 33 or 34 season at this point. It's going to happen, and it just bites its ugly head. But in regards to comps, we can see that this one sold for $1,825. A BGS 9.5 in September went for $1,750. So it's still up in light of the news. And then if we go back to August, it was $1,200. One thing I thought was interesting, if we go back here, is we actually can see an orange in this one right here in January. I don't know what the grade is. It might be an 8. It's a 9, a mint 9. So I kind of view that as the same. But this went for $2,500 on auction. After injury, this gold goes for $1,800. Seems like not a great buy to me.
I will also say that the card I mentioned before, that other gold that was up, it was up on eBay for $1,699. And when I messaged the person on the seller on Instagram, and it did not sell, and it was taken down. So this is a different card up for bids, like a month or 5 weeks later, and it went for more than the other one was listed for.
So this is the most expensive. Nope. It's the 3rd most expensive gold auto of this card ever. So not great.
Chris,
cool.
I think
cool color match.
I think it was actually listed higher, Chris. I think it was like $1,899 because we offered $1,500 and then he came back at $1,699.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. You're right. We got an offer on it at that. Yeah, I guess that wasn't the list price. You're right, Jeff.
So that's where we got stalled. But it's a great card. And still, I mean, despite his injury, he's still, in my opinion, on a Hall of Fame path. So comparing what this is to the price of some gold prospects who haven't even played in the majors, it doesn't seem bad. But yeah, like Phil said, the biggest thing is the not knowing. If it's 3 months, okay. But if it ends up being Tommy John, it will be 2 years. And that's 2 years already after last year when his strikeout numbers were down a little bit. You hate to see that for him at this point. He was really on a trajectory to easily get 3,000 strikeouts, maybe be the last of that kind until Strider, if he can get there. But yeah, Chris and I had bought a couple of his cards earlier this offseason based on all of that and all of that momentum. That was one we didn't get, fortunately, I guess, in retrospect. But I don't know. I don't know. If it turns out that he can come back and say get 120 innings this year, comes back in June, looks like his old self, great. That could turn out to be a good deal. But I feel like this will always be hanging over him until he retires or has the Tommy John surgery. So it's a little disappointing.
And we just mentioned Spencer Strider. Strider just had a Bowman Chrome Autograph Gold in a BGS 9.5 cell, like in the last few weeks. And I think it was over $3,000.
Oh, wow. So
that put those two cards kind of in perspective. Strider definitely outselling Garrett Cole as of right now.
Yeah.
So
and that's the whole, like, based on the part of his curve he's in, the trajectory, he's going to go for higher because people are assuming, he's going to go have this like ridiculous arc, and it's the hype.
Oh yeah.
More than it is like anything else. I mean, it's not saying that Garrett Cole sucks or is undervalued. It's just more Spencer Strider is younger. He has the ability to have 2 or 3 Cy Youngs by the time he's Garrett Cole's age, even though he probably won't. And he has the ability to not have a Tommy John surgery by the time he's 35, even though that's probably not going to happen based on how hard he throws and that he's only 6 feet tall.
Yeah. So here's a random example. So Cole Hamels, people do not view him as a Hall of Famer. Garrett Cole, people are starting to view him as a Hall of Famer. Obviously, Garrett Cole has better numbers right now because he hasn't had his decline yet, like Hamels has already had. But their ERA plus between 123 and 130, this can get real close with one bad season from Cole. And if Garrett Cole's not accumulating for the next 2 years, if worst case it is Tommy John, I mean, I don't think he makes the Hall of Fame. But if it's just a month or off and then he's fine and it's just elbow fatigue from going to spring training, then he'll be fine, right? So there's a lot of risk in that transaction and that purchase. But I want to hear your thoughts.
I just want to say one thing, though. It's not completely out of the realm of the possibility that he would be able to come back from Tommy John, because we've seen guys like Verlander come back and throw into his 40s. So I wouldn't. Yeah, but that's if he has to do Tommy John, I wouldn't say he's not going to make the Hall of Fame.
Well, I agree with you, but I'm saying the risk is really high. That's more of the exception to the rule than really what happens with aging curves after Tommy John, especially that age. So
I wouldn't say he's not going to make the Hall of Fame. That's all I'm saying.
I just don't think he's guaranteed to make the Hall of Fame right now. I think it's like a 50-50 coin flip currently. Same with, you could even argue DeGrom's the same way in some ways with advanced analytics. So, and that's what happens with, you get my idea. So let's jump to the next one. This next one is going to be this card. I love this card so much. This is the 2020 The Man Superfractor, and $886. And this is 1 of 1 based off of the 1998 The Man insert. I was watching this card. I forgot to place a bid, and it's okay. It's still $900 almost. What do you think of cool insert 1 of 1s like this one right here? Anything that interests you at this price, or is it more of just good for the buyer, not my thing? What do you think at this price, Chris?
Cards like this always make me come up with the same sort of internal debate that I have. Like, this is a really cool insert set. The card looks awesome. It's a great Harper image. So what would I rather have? Would I rather have the Superfractor of the non-auto version, or would I rather have like a red refractor auto or an orange or a gold refractor auto? I would rather spend less money and get an autograph version of this card than like a 1 of 1 non-autograph. Like, the autograph to me would mean more on that card than the fact that this is a 1 of 1 version of it, if that makes sense. So I would not spend $900 on this personally.
Okay.
I always have a similar internal dialogue when I see a card like this, except I think, okay, well, if I'm going to spend $900 on a Harper, would I rather have this or say like Black Parallel, a second-year Black Parallel, or gold, something early in his career? What kind of rookie could I get for that value, which might not be a lot, but a second year, you could get a really nice card for that price. And usually that always wins out. So I don't think I'll ever own cards like this. But especially if you're a big 90s fan, I'm sure the nostalgia plays a part in getting a card like this.
One thing I'll say, Chris, sorry, Jeff, is that this card is about the same price as a Bowman Chrome autograph for Harper, a base, even BGS 9.5 at times. There's a lot of those out there. They're not like super rare, but at the same time, I mean, BGS 9.5 Bowman Chrome autograph might be a couple $100 more at this point. I haven't looked at comps. Or this card, right? This card's really cool to me. But $900 was definitely more than I want to do personally. Phil, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I look at this card. The first thing that I think of is SCV Sports Card. He's a big fan of cards in vibrant colors. I don't know if a 9th year card of Bryce Harper would really fit the bill for him, though. So yeah, I'd be in the camp with the rest of you guys with like I want a card from a more meaningful set, right? And I'd pay less. I actually sold a Bowman Chrome autograph PSA 9, and the autograph was really nice. And it was actually a cracked out quad 9.5 from Beckett. And then I sent it to PSA and I got a 9. Sold it to my friend, Sports Card Investigator on YouTube for like $525.
There you go.
And he was asking me, like, he doesn't know much about baseball cards. He's like, is this like a good card of Harper? I'm like, yes. Like, I know like nothing I'll say to you. Like if I give you like my argument here, it's going to go in one ear out the other, but just trust me. Like, yes, it's a good card of Harper. Trust me. You could also probably get a 661A, like PSA 1, like in really bad shape, like the short print of Harper from 2012 Topps, and just use Kurt's card care and just turn it into like an 8 or a 9. Oh, yeah. So that's 3 shout outs. I'm doing my job.
Good job, Phil. But yeah, I actually agree that 661A, you probably can get a PSA 9 even for right now for about $1,000, maybe $1,200.
You get a really off-centered raw for this price, and I would be fine with that.
Definitely. Okay, so this next card is a 2013 Topps Chrome Gold Nolan Arenado PSA 10 numbered to 50 rookie. What do you think of the price on auction of $1,376? Phil, what do you think?
Yeah, that's about right, I think. At least like first glance, I mean, this is numbered to 50. It's not numbered to 250 like some of the cards you have to watch out for between, I don't know what it is, 2013 and 2015, 14, 15, 16 maybe. With Jose Ramirez, he's got an equivalent that's numbered to 50 from 2014, and I think his PSA 10 would sell for about the same, and he doesn't have Bowman Chrome autograph cards, but it's Jose Ramirez and Nolan Arenado's Nolan Arenado. And Scott can fill in the rest on that one. So I think it's a good price.
Okay. Chris, Jeff?
Yeah, I would say that probably seems about right. I know he has a gold refractor in update, and the update one has like matches the top
flagship. Yep.
But is the update one out of 250 or is the update one out of 50?
Out of 250. So that's why this card's hard for me, because there's another gold that has a better image matching his flagship. So
this one came first. It's lower numbered. But yeah, it could be a tougher to move down the road. I don't know. I don't own any Arenado cards, full disclosure, but this is definitely one I would have. If I had $1,400 to put into Arenado, this might be something I would have looked at. That's I like the image. A little crotch centric, but that's not.
It is very crotch.
It's a lot of crotch.
I never noticed that till now. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, I think it's partially the eBay photo. I wonder if that was done on purpose to run up the auction. I agree. I don't know much about the Arenado market since I don't have any of his cards, but this is the type of card I would like. It's his gold rookie numbered to 50. And yeah, even though he has the update, I would take this one because it's first and the lower print run. So yeah, I agreed. If somebody said you got to buy an Arenado card, this is probably one I buy. So yeah.
Does this change
your
mind?
Were you tempted to buy it, Scott?
Oh yeah, I love that card.
Scott's about to show us a Bowman Chrome Auto Blue that you can get for cheaper. Oh, okay. And that's probably a better buy for me.
The red out of 25, same price. It's on sale right now. You can buy it for $13.50. BGS 9.5 True Gem out of 25. Does that change your thoughts, or do you still think the gold is equally sought after to this card? Because this card's available, plus a PSA 10 is like $1,700.
Yeah, I would take this red right now. That looks really great. Plus, my eyes aren't as drawn to the crotch. It must be the angle. Maybe
definitely the angle. Where was that thing? Look at that difference.
Told you.
But yeah, so that we're seeing a bump like from the PSA 10 price over the BGS. That's a pure gem, right? Is it a pure gem plus? I'm kind of Yeah, I mean, that card looks beautiful to me.
Yeah, it's not going to cross, but
Nope.
yeah, it's nice.
Centering looks okay, but there's something.
Top left corner.
Yeah, that corner.
Yeah, the top left corner right there. There's no back photo, which isn't great.
Hmm.
But this one's tough because this card's out there. But if this card wasn't out there, I'd probably say the same thing. Not a terrible price. Okay, last one before we wrap this episode up. This is going to be a would you rather, but also on is this is a good price. First card, we have a Ronald Acuna Jr. Bowman Chrome autograph, BGS 9.510 with a 10 on edges, 9.5 everything else, True Gem Plus for $2,350 with a decent autograph, right? I don't know if that's a smudge right there or not, but either way, it was graded a 10 auto. And we also have a same exact auction, MC Sports Cards. This is a True Gem Juan Soto refractor, BGS 9.510, went for $3,350. So $3,350 for Juan Soto, $2,350 for the reigning NL MVP. Which card makes the most sense to you between those two?
They make equal sense.
Okay.
So because Soto doesn't have as many different parallels with Bowman specifically. We're not even talking about the rookie card differences where Soto has far fewer versus Acuna. And I think that's why you see with especially, well, pretty much any color with Bowman Chrome autograph, anything that's not a base, you'll see Soto outsell Acuna.
Yep.
And I think that's fine. I purchased in Acuna in similar subgrades to this. It was also before the knee scare. I know the knee's fine, but I'm still in my head applying at least a 5% discount on his stuff. So I wouldn't say that this is a steal. And I'd say that Soto's about right.
I got a question for you, Phil. You know this market better. How are they in terms of population? So they're both the refractors. They're both numbered to 499. Was the 16 versus the 17 different in terms of quality?
That's a good question. So the population would be just 9.5. Now, I don't know about True Gems. I know Soto's True Gems on the refractor don't come up for sale a lot, where Acuna's do. Because I have a Soto, and I'm trying to compare I have a True Gem Soto. I try to compare it with other True Gems, and I can't find any because there are very few. So maybe it's tougher, but there are only about 50 PSA 10s of this card and probably 200 plus BGS 9.5s. So does that mean that the quality control is good or bad for the refractor? Because you could take an argument either way. PSA 10s being about 50, with so many people having the chance to cross these over, like this one, I'm guessing that decision point already came and passed for one or two owners of this card, and it just wasn't a great candidate, or it failed because they didn't take it out of the slab or whatever. So I don't know if that helps answer your question. I don't think there's enough information.
Yeah, no, it does. Yeah, I would lean towards the Soto for the reason you spoke of before, that just the number of parallels in the set, but they both seem like pretty reasonable prices given where the market is now.
Yeah, I agree. One thing for those listening, Soto has a refractor, green refractor, blue refractor, purple refractor, and then gold, red, orange. That's basically it. He has a couple weird things like some red shimmers and a Twitter out of 3, like really random. But he does not have a superfractor. And then Acuna has all of the same, plus he has a gold shimmer and a green shimmer. And that's like the additional things that really devalue his Bowman Chrome autographs.
He also has that
70th anniversary.
The 70th blue that cannibalizes the blue, even though it's
not numbered, but
it's like people projected on blowout forums about 50 of them because they're the same odds as the gold. But I bet they're out of 70 because that just makes sense. It's the 70th anniversary.
In an orange shimmer, right? Or no?
No, I don't know if he had an orange shimmer.
All right.
I don't know. He might have. And if that's the case, it even devalues a little bit more. But that's all hurt Acuna, unfortunately. And that's why you'll see those prices like Phil mentioned. But okay, those were all of my recently watched auctions that ended. But other than that, thank you for watching. Please let us know down in the comments if you agree with our takes, disagreed with our takes, if you agree on these cards. And other than that, we will see you in the next video.